I want to invite you into the world of my dissertation, a magical world of rubbish heaps, cheap motels, garbage, and of course, the gutter. Now I know what you're thinking. This doesn't sound very glamorous or magical. It sounds a little gross, kind of dirty, but what if I told you there are artists, thinkers, writers, performers invested in these spaces? You'd probably wonder why. Through close analysis of photographs and archival documentation, I re-engage feminist, queer, and activist performances from the late 60s to the 90s, asking exactly this question: why these spaces? And my project starts in one that's near and dear to my heart, the Los Angeles River. Highly polluted, full of garbage, and the tiny trickle of water that flows through it is mostly sewage and urban discharge. It's less a river and more of a giant gutter, a citywide groove that carries excess and waste to the margins, out of sight, out of mind. It also happens to be the home to many of LA's unhoused, which right now numbers about 70,000. And while many people drive over the Los Angeles River every day, very few ever delve into it. In the early 1970s, a Chicano collective called OSCO led walking tours of the Los Angeles River. Their goal was to remap the city and refocus everybody's attention on the people who inhabited these spaces, the people who lived there. They called them land surveys, and they wanted to draw attention to how legislation, urban planning, and zoning laws all work together to push certain communities, in this case impoverished, queer, and mostly Chicano, to the margins, out of sight, out of mind. Artists like OSCO stage and plan events in gutter spaces, spaces that get imbued with disgust, waste, perversity, and often shame, to challenge our assumptions of not just these spaces, but the people who live and occupy those spaces. They bring audiences not just into the space, but into contact with those humans, with those populations that they might not otherwise ever interact with, such as sex workers, homeless, dislocated queer youth, and trans individuals. And by bringing them into contact, it's very important, because these communities and their spaces are constantly under threat of law enforcement, legislation, and other strategic planning that hinges on them being dehumanized, being placed out of sight and out of mind. And they think that change comes by shining light on the spaces and the people in them and bringing them humanity. Thank you.